What would the check be to see if I shoot myself in the foot?
What are you checking?
I'm checking to see if I don't shoot myself in the foot when I try to pull out my gun. Last time we did Soapbox, you had some thoughts. This time I wanted to talk about something. So, as many people might know, there's been a lot of discussion going on right now about D&D and the Open Gaming License.
Yeah, it's almost like it's all over my YouTube feed all the time right now.
Oh yeah, it's pretty much everything I see when I go on any social media site and pretty much all over YouTube. So
yeah. And here's the thing. We're kind of choosing people that are more qualified to talk about it than we are. Also waiting until there's actual information that isn't just alleged information.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you heard the update that they had come out with a statement that they're doing something about open feedback.
They're going to be doing a play testing of like an open gaming license that would be like available forever, which I'm sure is a thing that they're trying to get some better PR on. But yeah, we'll see what that happens. Anyway, the old school reporter in me wants to just say, since we're not really as qualified as other people to discuss it, please do not get all of your news source from one source. Read everything, take everything that you hear with a grain of salt, and if it really does matter to you, do the research. Be aware that there's constant updates on this stuff, and know what sources you are getting your news from. And make sure that it's many of them, so that you can verify with other people. I guess this is my soapbox at the moment. Getting your news from a single source is one of the worst things that you can do for your edification and your information. It leads you down a wormhole.
Yeah, don't trust us for your news. We're bad faith actors.
We're bad faith actors. We're not nearly as knowledgeable, especially on this topic. However, there is one thing that I did want to discuss, which is tangential to this, which is about third-party content. And more importantly, about how important third-party content is for your brand. And this doesn't just extend to D&D. Third-party content is very important, not just to keep your brand active, but keep your brand expanding.
And exciting as well.
And exciting, exactly. Some of the things that happened with D&D, I was watching something just the other day where they mentioned about how there was a whole supplemental book that was third-party content that talked about ancestries and lineages. Way before D&D ever decided to address the idea of race, those are things that started as conversations in third-party content. One of the examples, though, that I will talk about right here is in a video game context. So you might have known about a little game that was once called, what was it called? Fallout New Vegas. You remember Fallout New Vegas? Okay. Mm-hmm. You might have remembered that Fallout New Vegas had a feature in that game that was not in Fallout 3. Do you know what it is?
Mod support?
So yeah, actually gun mod support was the big thing that they added in. However, the reason why they put it in was because there was third-party mods that they had made for Fallout 3 to put those mods in.
Okay.
When they talked to the creative team who made New Vegas, they specifically cited that the reason why they had put those gun mods in the game was because it was such a popular thing as a mod to Fallout 3.
Yeah.
Their game was made better and more features were added in because third-party development happened. Because people outside of the game community themselves happened.
So on that same note with video games, I'm sure you've heard of a small game that's called League of Legends.
League of Legends, yes I have.
Cool. You know, it's pretty popular game.
I've heard.
It's got a lot of people that play it. Esports up the ass.
Mm-hmm.
So are you familiar with the origins of League of Legends?
No. Actually, I am not. Please tell me.
Okay, so quick rundown of this. League of Legends is an adaptation from a game called Dota, Dawn of the Ancients, which itself was a spawn from a third-party map creation game mode for Warcraft 3. People making a map in Warcraft 3 for this game mode spawned that into Dota, which then spawned League of Legends.
Right.
So through third-party content of just making a map that did something different, people made this incredibly popular thing that became this giant game all of its own.
Right. Right. And that
of course,
made a lot of money. Then that made
not for... here's the thing. It made a lot of money
yeah.
for the people that weren't directly responsible for it being made. Blizzard didn't get any money out of this. And this is why when they did Warcraft 3 Reforged, and part of their license agreement was that any maps you make are a property of us and we own them, and you can't make money on these or use them other places. And people are like,
was League of Legends?
Fuck you.
Yeah. Was that because of League of Legends?
They wrote that in because of League of Legends existing because of that.
Right.
Which I'm sure is what WotC did, the reason with their OGL that they're trying to do. I'm sure that's one of the reasons they're like, hey, let's copy that. Except if you had done your fucking homework, you would have been like, oh, Warcraft 3 Reforged fucking flopped.
A League of Legends or anything keeps that whole brand around. One of the other ones that I'd like to mention, a very famous one, is around Half-Life 2. Because you might remember that Valve came out with a little game that was pretty popular called Half-Life 2. But from that, there were mod communities that made some games off of that. You might have remembered some things like, oh, I don't know, Counter-Strike, Team Fortress, or a little thing called Portal. Well, anyway, those weren't built by, like, the Valve team themselves. Like, originally, those were mod teams that were building off of the framework. Yeah. But that didn't stop Valve from eventually kind of going, oh, these are really good ideas, hiring a lot of the people that actually worked on those, making them into full games, and eventually making a ton of money on the back end off of the Orange Box and the sequels that they made for all of those games.
Yeah. On the tabletop side, you have things like Pathfinder, which was spawned out of the 3.5.
Yeah.
It was people going, we want to take what 3.5 D&D did and build off that and make our own game. And they did, and Pathfinder became wildly successful. Again, companies don't understand sometimes that allowing your player base and your biggest fans to create content that is adjacent to what you make is good for business in the end. You may lose money by them selling that product later, but it's good for your brand.
Yes.
Because it gives you lots of trust and faith.
Look, the thing is, can you tell me that if Skyrim didn't have mod support, people would still play it 11 years after its initial release, and they would have been able to get 16 different versions out there?
I will say I do know one person that's going to be listening to this that plays Skyrim without mods, but it's because they're a lore junkie.
Yes.
And so what keeps them in the game is the lore in the game. I know you're listening, so we're not shitting on you, but
no. but
I think the mods add a lot of different things. That again, you don't get 20,000 mods available for a game because people don't like it.
Exactly.
You get 20,000 mods for a game because people love the game and the framework you gave them and the ability to do different things with it.
Absolutely. There is one that's coming out just so that you know about it too. I've seen trailers for it. There's going to be a big mod called Sky Oblivion.
Oh, Sky Oblivion. Yeah, I saw news about that too.
Of course, what I'd really like to see is Skywind, as a lot of people may know, because Morrowind really needs an update. And actually, on a side note, folks, what about Arena and Daggerfall? Daggerfall needs a Skyrim update.
I don't think you could make it big enough for Daggerfall.
That's true. Daggerfall was huge.
Yeah.
Daggerfall is like the largest map of any of the Elder Scrolls games. Being able to have like people go and try to make something off of your framework just makes the framework more valuable. And I think that that's really the key. At the end of the day, for D&D, having people make third-party content. Sure, they'll make money on it. You might not, Watsy, if you're listening, because I know you are, if you might not make money off of the third-party content. I understand that, I get that, but do you know what the folks are going to need if they're going to play that third-party content? Player's handbooks, and monster manuals, and the DM's guide. Like, that stuff they're gonna still need, and they're gonna want to buy, or they're gonna use D&D Beyond. And you know who gets the money for that? You do. You do. And if they're not going to play that third-party content that's gonna get them in or keep them playing, not as many people are gonna buy your thing. And they're gonna move to other systems like we're seeing with like Project Black Flag or the ORC that are being proposed right now.
Just imagine if instead of being D&D, Critical Role had been Pathfinder.
Pathfinder would have been huge right now.
Yeah.
It would have gotten a lot. Like, I'm not going to say that D&D's success was specifically based on how many different outlets in the media, like in television and movies and everything, started to reference it, but it was not hurt by it in any way, shape, or form. And if there was a different RPG that was being used, you would have seen more exposure for it directly. That would have led to more sales of whatever they ended up using. After Critical Role, Adventure Zone, Stranger Things, all of those places kind of popularized the idea of playing Dungeons and Dragons and what that all meant. That's a lot of exposure. And if we were to then say that, oh, well, you can't actually do that unless you give us money, would hinder them tremendously. Now, that's not to say, just to clarify one thing, that Critical Role would necessarily have to pay a lot of money to WotC for the content that they're making, because that's not technically like third-party content as defined. But it would be harder for people to have inroads if there wasn't such an open system where people could develop off of it, and would give people less options, less material that they could use for your system. And if there's less material that's usable for your system, there's less use of your system.
Yeah.
That's basically what it amounts to, which is the reason why a lot of game devs, ones that have done very well for themselves for that matter, have not only accepted that there's going to be mod support, third-party development, but have embraced it. And the more that they embrace it, the more they seem to get out of it. It's the reason why Bethesda now will pretty much put direct mod support and marketplaces in their games for you to utilize, without having to try to go into the files and everything, like where there's actual places.
Even going back
download.
to like Activision Blizzard, World of Warcraft supports mods.
Yeah.
They can't change the nature of the game, but you can have visual and overlays and things that keep track of things for you.
Mm-hmm.
Even some macros, as long as it doesn't interfere and like bot the game,
they're
pretty much fine with it.
And while we're on the subject of Blizzard, think about what StarCraft, Warcraft, or any of the other strategy games would have looked like if they didn't have map editing, where you could download, where you could make your own maps and then upload them for other people to play.
Oh, it would look like Warcraft 3 Reforged.
Exactly. It would look exactly like that. We saw how well that worked out. We'll see how well that worked out. So yeah, in short, to game developers that are out there, WotC, I know that you're listening, but also to anybody else who's understand that there is not only value, but there is a real reason why people accept and embrace the idea of third-party content. It might not benefit you financially directly, but it does affect you in like a tertiary sense. It does a lot of heavy lifting, even with just the promotion of your system, that frankly, if you think about how much people usually have to spend on promotions, think about what that valuation is of what you usually have to do for advertising budgets. Now imagine if everybody else is basically doing it for you. and think that has value as well. If you end up creating something that's going to kill that off, well, it's shooting yourself in the foot. What would the check be to see if I shoot myself in the foot?
What are you checking?
I'm checking to see if I don't shoot myself in the foot when I try to pull out my gun.
Sleight of hand?
Sleight of hand? Yeah, if I fail the sleight of hand roll, You scored a
Yeah.
1 on a sleight of hand roll.
You shoot yourself in the thigh and bleed out in minutes.
In minutes, yep. Create a new character. If you have any other examples, though, of where mods and third-party support really helped out a game, please let me know in the comments down below.